Heyo, it has been a little while since I last made one of these. I've been busy with life and also redid my website, which is finally up. I love spending time on my website because it has all of my hobbies and not just one thing. But anyway, I made this piece back in April and I meant to post the video about then. However, I got sidetracked, which is the story of my life. But here we are. So this piece was for Pixel Dailies. I believe it was the climb theme, which in Hannah's brain means that it should be a house covered with ivy. And I've always loved the house from Kiki's delivery service, so I thought we'll just maybe give this a go and see how it turns out. I really struggled to find some references for this one actually, because at least of the whole house, but it turns out that there was a model made of it, which did help to kind of understand the sort of structure of the actual house itself, rather than the small snippets of it that you would see. And obviously those are also helpful too, and it's always nice to just watch the movie again. But yeah, so to start off with this one, I opened Aseprite, and I think the canvas is 320 by 180 or so, which it doesn't sound like a lot of pixels, but it's a lot of pixels. It does actually take a while. So in classic Hannah fashion, I did not finish the Pixel Daily in a day. It took a little bit longer than that, which I think it was over 2 days, which is fine. The point is to have fun with it, right? But anyway, I filled the canvas with a sort of base green colour and just started sketching things out from there, just to sort of get that general shape of the house. And you'll see very quickly I do actually switch to just blobs of colour to be able to put things in. I do like to go between them, sometimes sketching just to kind of get the overall size or whatnot, especially if I'm not too sure of the composition. And then once I'm a bit more settled, I'll often move more to blobs of colour. But you can see that it all comes together pretty quickly. I kept the canvas mostly zoomed out and I just kept sort of blobbing colours around, lots of different greens. So you'll see that I used a few sort of yellowy greens and also some blue to help to balance that out a little bit. I love to use those sorts of colours, and sometimes you'll see me drop in some purple as well. I used the sort of neutral colours for the house and whatnot, but it just sort of ties it all in together, so you end up with this almost sort of rainbowy kind of tones to it, but it's still very heavily green, which I'm quite happy with. It only took about sort of just over an hour to get the base of the actual piece there, as in I didn't really change a lot of the placement of things after that. You will see that I do reshape some things, I didn't like the perspective of the roof, so I changed that because it just looked a bit wonky. And then the tree next to the house as well got sort of changed a couple of times. It started off looking too sort of generic tree when it should look more like a birch tree, and they do have a sort of a more specific shape, and obviously the trunk is one of the more notable features. But yeah, so I changed that a couple of times over, and then the bulk of this piece was mostly just rendering, and I love rendering. I love detail. I can do this for hours. It is a problem to a degree because I will overdo it in many cases. And in this piece, I tried to experiment a little bit more with having sort of larger blocks of color that were just not really detailed. So you'll notice this in the sort of lighter colors of the grass. I've used that on the roof as well, and you'll see that there's some areas that are just not detailed, and then as they get into the darker tones it might get a little bit more detailed, but you've got those pockets or islands of solid color there to give your eye a bit of a place to rest. And I actually really enjoyed that. it's, you know, it's just a little bit different. I still think it's still very much within, I guess, my style, but it was very enjoyable to actually make some little differences to this. But yeah, I think that's sort of it, or at least everything I could think of for now. If you have any questions or anything, I'm happy to answer them in the comments or anything like that. And I've added a really quick time lapse right at the end as well, so you can actually see it. It's great. I've been recording both the screen and also the time lapse. And did you know that you can have technically a GIF file that has like 30,000 frames? Is it recommended? No, but it's possible, and that's basically how the time lapses are done, aside from, you know, the screen recordings. But there we go. Anyway, I hope that you enjoyed watching this, and let me know if you want to see anything else. Yeah, otherwise I'm just gonna keep making stuff.